Ken, thank you so much for reaching out. Thank you for the music. I'm looking forward to getting into it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. So the one thing that I want to point out first and foremost is, the Green Lady Lounge is 100% a staple of the Kansas City scene. There's an iconic vibe. There's an iconic sound. There's a feel. It's not just this place. When I started this show in 2011, the Green Lady was kind of like this hip joint that was coming up, and it's been established long enough. It survived a pandemic. There's a lot of grit that goes into what's going on there. When I listen to this album, I think about what is becoming another emblematic sound of Kansas City that even harkens back to what Bird was doing, what Mary Lou was doing when she came here from Pittsburgh. There's all these iconic sounds, Count Basie, all these sounds. And Green Lady is up in that echelon of historic Kansas City sounds. And what you do on the organ and what you do with your trio and what you've captured here, to me, is emblematic of a modern sound, yet harkens back to that rich history of Kansas City. So my question to you is this: what were you ultimately going after with this particular recording?
Well, we have a new drummer, Kenny Watson Jr., and he really brought a different groove to the band. And a lot of times I'll joke, I play the same stuff and it all sounds better because I got Kenny playing, and because the drums. And so as soon as he started playing in the group regularly, I was like, this is different. We need to record this, and we were due anyway, in terms of getting a new record of original music out. So I really wanted to capture the new tunes we were doing with the new drummer, and capture, because it definitely, I feel like we really connect to the audience as well down at Green Lady Lounge. And I wanted to capture that music. And we do a lot of live recordings that are broadcast on KPR. But there's things I like about studio recordings too.
Yeah.
And we've just recorded my place in my studio here in this room I'm sitting in. And so it was a chance to record the group in the studio setting, but just play the tunes we're playing at Green Lady and get versions of those tunes that we're all happy with.
Yeah.
And we accomplished that. We did end up using we did 3 or 4 sessions, and we ended up using a lot of the takes were from the first session.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we captured it fairly early on. It took me maybe a little while to realize that.
So, Brian, you guys have had quite a history. I've seen Kenny before. The one thing that I'm learning more and more being behind the microphone and doing jazz music is that you definitely get this sense of kind of this harmony that goes into the language that you guys are all exchanging. And really, you guys are having a conversation, but it just feels so harmonious. It's like when you walk into the doors of the Green Lady and you guys are smoking, you guys are going, you're grooving, you just feel good. There's this visceral blanket that you wrap over everybody that walks in. So talk to me a little bit about Brian and the relationship you guys have had, and weaving Kenny because he's a younger cat on the scene. How did this whole dichotomy come together?
Well, yeah, Brian and I have been doing, OJT for a little over 20 years now.
Yeah.
We realized that the first recordings we did were back in 2003. It ended up being that Ken Lovern's OJT record. Like we did Yuma Green and we did standards back on that, but we did a chunk of originals on that. All my tunes back then. And we recorded that in 2003. So we're a little over 20 years now. The last 2 records we've done have been about half my tunes and half Brian's tunes, and we called the group OJT, I think, which is organ jazz trio or on the job training, but it's also it's not Ken Lovern's OJT necessarily, when it's on Apple Music and I think that's reflective of it really being a group effort. And everybody contributing to the music. So Brian and I have been doing it a long time, and we have a pretty a lot of shared aesthetic values in terms of the music we like, the music we listen to, and what we want to bring to the group. We both really enjoy improvised music, um, and we like playing a variety of feels because we play straight ahead swing, we play funk, we play uh, you know all sorts of kind of different in between grooves, and that's something we really enjoy is playing the different types of grooves and setting up each other's solos. Uh, Bringing Kenny into the band, when he joined, things just really seemed to coalesce. He came up playing in church and has a pretty wide variety of experience for a younger guy. He's done a lot of different things, plays bass.
Yeah.
So he's got a wide ranging musical experience. But I think one of the things that really defines the group is just being committed to the groove, just
Yeah.
making it rhythmically together and feeling good, so that the music is always feeling good, and hopefully if you're listening, it's helping you feel good. I mean, that's a lot of the point of it.
And one of the people in this town that's given you a platform to put this music out on a regular basis, and it's emblematic of jazz, is that there's people that are on the background, but they're towering figures, and John Scott's one of those. Being at the Green Lady, giving you the opportunity to do this, talk to me a little bit about his unwielding influence on what you've done and how this sound has built and become just totally a part of going to the Green Lady.
Well, John was an early convert to the Hammond organ band. When I first started playing at Green Lady, there was a piano sitting in the main room, and we would roll an organ in there one Wednesday night a month. And I think that went on for about a year. And that was 2013. And but pretty early on, John was like, "Well, do you have an organ you could leave here?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And so pretty early, I think within a year or so, uh, the piano got moved downstairs for a while and it eventually went away. But we had an organ in there. And so and a lot of different organ groups were playing there, not just us, a lot of organ groups, and that continues to this day. Um, and we were playing at that time, we had the new standards for the Green Lady where we were kind of taking pop tunes and giving them organ jazz treatment.
Yeah.
And then during the pandemic, we started doing the streaming shows from Black Dolphin, and those are all up on YouTube. Um, Sometimes with no audience, sometimes with a reduced audience. We're wearing masks in the video, but at that point, we started doing all original music.
Yeah.
And part of that was and John was a big driver behind that, and part of that was that he wanted to be able to put the stuff up and repackage it or do whatever with it without having to worry about ASCAP BMI or any kind of licensing situations. So having all original music made that cleaner,
Yeah.
in terms of being able to deal with that. And then when the club reopened in March of 2021, when we started reopening Green Lady, John wanted to keep the all original thing going.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a challenge because it was at first, especially because we had some of these tunes we've been doing, and it's like if I saw a guy with a cowboy hat walk in, I'd call Wichita lineman.
Yeah.
You know, and you could win people over by playing a tune they recognized, right? But it was always our own treatment of those songs,
Yeah.
and I kind of missed having those arrows in my quiver, those songs. But he was committed to it. So, we do all original music there, and all the tunes on this record on Ground Level are all original. And so that was a big thing that was his doing,
Yeah.
that it's going to be all original music. Um, and just the vibe of the club, when you walk in, there's no TVs, it's low light, there's candles, it's nice lighting. Women look good in the lighting, everybody looks good in that dark lighting with the soft candle, simulated candle glow. And that's all John's doing. He's got a real eye for interior design. and lighting sensitivity, and I just, one of the biggest things that struck me when I first went in there was, oh my goodness, there's no TVs. And I was so glad because, I've done more than one jazz gig in a sports bar,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's not ideal. I mean, I've had some fun doing some of those, but it's not ideal. So it's nice to have a venue that's set up, to have kind of a timeless classic. I mean, you go in there, it could be 19, because of the organ, I mean, it could be late 50s or early 60s. I mean, or it could be right now. There's not a lot of things that really date it
Yeah.
in terms of the appearance. It has a classic look.
Absolutely. The one thing about a lot of major cities during the pandemic was a lot of clubs closed
Right.
and
And didn't reopen.
did not reopen. And I
Yeah.
was concerned about the Green Lady because it's such a
Me too.
wonderful joint. But not only did you guys stay open, you guys thrived, like you said. You were doing remotes from the Black Dolphin, coming up with original music. You really captivated. And I think that now that I look in the rearview mirror at like coming from my perspective of interviewing and delving into what was going on with the musicians, you guys really did something spectacular that I don't think this city understands. You really had to fight to stay open. You were innovative. And now that we're out of it, and I know we've been back to it for a while. Do you notice the difference with the clientele, like you were talking about the cat that came in with the cowboy hat? Are you noticing an extra level of vigor? Anything different from the kind of the re-entry of the public into jazz?
Well, I certainly did in 21 and 22.
Yeah,
A lot of people would come in and they're like, we haven't been here for a year, or we haven't been here for 2 years. And a lot of those people watched the streaming videos.
yeah,
A lot of people were watching those and getting some kind of connection from when they would come out and hear us. And so, and that was a lot of that was John's doing in terms of he wanted to keep things going somehow,
yeah,
and the streaming was a way to do it. And he got the tech together to have good streaming, and it was him down there switching cameras. I mean, he became the director of those videos and learned how to do. I mean, he had some experience with that stuff, but he had to learn to do a lot of it because the technology changes over time. And we worked on getting the audio. I helped with getting the audio together for those streaming concerts. But that was really him, and how he managed to pay the rent and stay open for 6 months, a year, because we'd sort of reopen, then we had to close back.
yep,
I don't know how he did it. I mean, I'm not sure how he pulled that off, but he did.
yep,
But it wasn't easy. I mean, it was tight,
yeah.
and he was able to kind of figure out a way to squeeze by. Um, and it took a while to catch up, but the club's been successful since then.
So I kind of touched at the top here about the iconic sound that the Green Lady provides this town. When you hear Kansas City, one of the most instantaneous words that come to your mind is jazz. We are known for jazz, barbecue, with the Chiefs now, but we're known for jazz. This club's been around for 10 plus years, and you've been there this whole time. How important is it for you putting these records out and creating this sound in the pantheon of Kansas City jazz? Do you guys ever think about that? Do you and John ever think about the legacy that you're creating that's indelibly a part of this rich Kansas City jazz tapestry that we're dealing with?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I, I'm aware of wanting to get, what I feel are really good versions of these tunes recorded. I like records. I like listening to vinyl, so I like getting them out on vinyl, you know.
Yes, sir.
You know, I like getting them on records, and that's fun for me. And I do think, I had this woman who was a church organist from Minnesota in last weekend, and she wanted to get some records. And I'm just always so happy when the records they spread out like little
Yeah.
seeds, and you hope they germinate. But also just that they're out there so that, yeah, in 20 years, people are going to find these records. I've never heard of this band, and put it on like, oh man, this is all right, or whatever.
Yeah.
They're out there and they'll be in people's collections, and at some point they'll be showing up in the thrift stores, and the used record stores and stuff. And so I like that. I think John's pretty aware of getting a lot of titles out, getting the bands recorded. we've recorded a lot of stuff and put out a lot of like we've got 3 Rod Fleeman, and we're recording volume 4 in November. We put that out. There's a Wiretown. There's a new Wiretown coming out. Um, there's a Tim Whitmer live at Black Dolphin.
Yep.
Tim's been doing that show for years, and so we've got that recorded now. 2 CD sets coming out this month. There's a Reyes Brothers CD, Brian Baggett
Yep.
trio. That we reissued the Danny Embry recording from '88, and there's a new Danny Embry trio that just came out this year. The Orion Room Danny Embry one, which is really good. And so all that stuff, it's out there. It helps spread the word. It helps give people because not that many people are playing CDs anymore,
Yep.
but people will get one if they can play it in their car or if they still have a CD player at home. But also people come into the Green Lady and they want a souvenir, and they want to support the band. And so buying a CD helps with that. Buying a record helps with that. I sell more records than CDs, but not all the bands, get vinyl. A lot of times it's a CD. And we're getting it up on all the streaming services. All these recordings are up on all streaming services. And so it's just a way to kind of, Kansas City Jazz has been a thing forever, but people would do their records, and sell them off the gigs. But, we're kind of in a different era, the way media works and streaming works. And so, I think Green Lady and Jazz Daddy Records and I've produced all of these recordings with John as executive producer. We've done a good job of capturing what's going on and archiving it and and getting it out there and also getting them distributed, getting them out there so that people are interested, have something to check out.
The one thing about Kansas City, when I talk to people from around the country and even the world, it's almost like we're one of the best kept secrets. There's so
Sure.
much that's going on here, and a really big backdrop of Kansas City is the jazz scene. And sometimes I bands, all these bands that you've talked about that are a part of what you guys are putting out at Green Lady and even beyond, I don't know that the rest of the world's getting a really good whiff of what's going on with jazz, but you've teamed up with some of my favorite marketing people of all time at Groove Marketing, Mark and Josh, and it seems like you're getting a lot of traction. There's a lot more. How has that union been for you to get the word out to really put Kansas City Jazz on the map?
Well, you know, so many things I do, I would love to delegate, but it's hard to delegate them.
Yeah,
And that's one of those things where those guys know how to promote to radio. That's their experts at that.
yeah,
And and it's a significant expense to hire them to do a thing for us, but it's so worth it in terms of we can delegate something and they can do what they do to help get the word out beyond Kansas City. And that's really what that's about on those things. I mean, I remember when I first did that, I was thinking, okay, so we'll spend this much money on the radio promotion and then we'll sell more units, we'll sell more CDs and stuff. Well, you sell a few more, but it's not enough to make up for the expense for most people.
yeah.
Um, but it's more about just getting the word out. And I think that's one of the reasons we've done the radio promotion. In some ways it's soft advertising for the club, because a lot of the releases have been live at Green Lady Lounge or live at Black Dolphin or, but also getting the word out about the groups. But I think it does help get we've got Green Lady Radio, which is all, Green Lady artists. And that's, just like internet radio essentially. And we play it in the club and that's out there too. But again, that's sort of a closed end audience, only people that know to look for it. Where the radio promotion hopefully reaches out to people who are listening to jazz radio, public radio, however they listen to jazz radio all over the world, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of an outreach, hoping to, spread the word, but also draw people into our net, get them
100%.
in.
Yeah. So ground level at the end of the day, what are you ultimately hoping the listener gets from this album?
Well, enjoyment. And I think I feel we do a variety of tunes.
Hmm.
We're doing tunes that are almost like instrumental R&B, like Bit Bow Now. And then we've got tunes that are up-tempo swing, like Brian's Union Station, that's more straight ahead. Um, and so they get sort of an overview of the group and that's a tradition of organ jazz groups is they would play a wide variety of feels. The organ groups a lot of times back in the late 60s, they'd play a bossa nova, they'd play a pop tune, they'd play a funk tune, they'd play a straight ahead blues and so we sort of have an updated version of that tradition, where we tend to play a variety of different rhythmic feels. We've got Brian's tune, Baggy Blue Jeans is kind of a bossa nova, but it's like an Americanized bossa nova, like, Wes Montgomery and those kind of guys were playing in the late 60s. It's in that bag.
Yeah.
But everything's updated through our lens though, because we all grew up later,
Yeah.
and listened to rock and roll and Pat Metheny and, all sorts of modern influences.
Yeah. So ground level, obviously, if anyone wants to pick up a copy or anything in the beautiful catalog that you have, they can go to the Green Lady. But if anybody wants to get it otherwise or delve more into your world or OJT, where can they go?
KenLovern.com, just under my name, KenLovern.com. That's got all of our stuff that you can listen to, complete versions of the tunes on that. We're on OJT, just as the three letters OJT is available on all the streaming services, so you can see our back catalog. We've got 3 releases under the OJT name. Ground level, new originals for the Green Lady,
Yep.
new standards for the Green Lady, and then the first OJT records under my name, Ken Lovern's OJT. But we've essentially got those 4 releases that are available on all streaming services or at kenlovern.com. And yeah, greenladylounge.com also sells our stuff. I sell the stuff, basically, it's through my website, but you just send me an email and I mail it out. You can see us on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
We're on Bandcamp, which is cool. I like Bandcamp.
Yeah.
So we're a Google search will take you there. We're not hard to find.
Absolutely. And you're always playing at the club live. I love you guys. What you guys are doing, it's always a joy to talk about it and catch up. Ken, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. It's always great to see you in the club, man. I look forward to seeing you in there again soon.
I can't wait, man. Cheers. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Take care.